Okay, guys, we're going to be starting up this session this morning for securing a workstation's best practice. Obviously, IT professionals must take security very seriously because obviously our customers or clients or users have valuable information for the company's business, and it's all at stake. Not to mention that a great deal of this confidential information is routinely stored within their computers or laptops. The users represent the weakest link always in the security chain. They are the ones that can create the most harm, believe it or not. Whether the harm comes from them in a form of malware, social engineering, or simply just by avoiding mistakes, going to sites and downloading or doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. The workstation represents a digital arm of the user and must be properly and adequately secured to keep the user and the network protected. Our main objectives for this is to be able to describe how you would apply the 5 CompTIA's best practices to secure a workstation and identify the common pitfalls to securing a workstation itself. CompTIA has identified 5 practices. One is the best password practices, account management, disable the auto run function within the CDs and other stuff that you may attach, data encryption, and patch update. For those that wanted to follow along on the book, the textbook pages on the gray one is 1233 to 1244. What do you think are the best practices to secure a workstation overall? Setting passwords. Yeah, when you set passwords, though, what are 3 examples of a strong password? You wouldn't know? Mm-hmm.
Special characters, upper and lowercase characters, numbers.
Yeah, the length also, complexity. That's called complexity, the length, the amount of time that it can be out there, right? That's another one. Or password history, how many times they can actually use it. And all of these can be circumvented, obviously, by the users. Because God only knows that then instead of creating something that can't be hacked, they'll pick something, just for giving you an example, the word Apple. And then they'll put the @ sign for the A and a 3 for the E. Believe it or not, people are not that dumb. They'll be able to figure out that you're using the A, that you're using the 3 for an E. So if they have any idea of what your password may be, I assure you that the asterisk is obviously also being used as O. There's many of them that the $ as an S. Those things are very easy for these people that have a dictionary attack and have all these other ways of being able to just create at will passwords based on information of the user. Sometimes even the complexity itself doesn't work. The exclamation mark can be used as an I. So be careful when you're creating your passwords. Make sure that you don't have your cat's name on it, for instance, as part of your password. No. Let me get rid of him. To apologize. So we're going to be covering these. Same thing with account management, disable, and data encryption and patch updates. The best password, this one's just too cute. I change all my passwords to incorrect. So whenever I forget, it'll tell me your password is incorrect. Very clever, but obviously not very useful. It does remind you though, huh? If you put the wrong password, it's going to tell you your password is incorrect. Setting your passwords, obviously securing it is use 12 or more characters. The longer the password, the better. At the same time, a lot of these users can't even get their spouse's birthday right, let alone get something that's over 12 characters. So it gets very, very convoluted when we try to make it too complex for them. We have to be careful. Combine upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters, at least one symbol in your password. One thing we should never do is use A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, and believe it, QWERTY. Anybody know who QWERTY is?
Keyboard.
Yeah.
First row of letters.
Yeah, that's the easiest password you could ever create. But at the same time, it does pass the complexity. For instance, on purpose, on my virtual machines, since I want to break them and stuff, I use the number 1 and QWERTY all the way up to P. And then the little, whatever you want to call that guy, bracket at the end. It's long enough, and it's complex at the same time. It has a number, it has a special character, and it passes Windows, but at the same time, we all agree that is a very simple password because all I have to do is just go, and I'm in. Next thing is we want to make sure is that you don't use the same as your sign-in name. Don't use Word in any language. You'd be surprised how many people use Jehovah, God, Yahweh, all these words that represent the word of their given God, and they think that they're being slick about it. I found plenty of users that also use the months. Don't use the months because God only knows if it's September 2020, it's not going to be that hard to try that password. That's not stopping anyone. Don't use the same password for more than one system is obviously a no-no because the first time they get your password, they already got it for the rest of them. At the same time, that's one of the other reasons why they created a single sign-on is to avoid you creating all these different types of passwords that are exactly the same. Kind of contradicting not to use the same password for everything. That's me. Questions or doubts on setting strong passwords? All right. Password expiration. The longer the password, obviously, the longer I have to be able to hack it. Although you may be online and it may give me an hour window to be stopping being a bad boy and trying to get into your actual computer. If you have no expiration, I basically have no expiration to be able to hack your password. It's also the reason you should have them require a change of passwords usually within 30 to 60 days. The most 60 days, but I would strongly recommend the 30 days. And to change your default usernames and password, your default accounts, username and password represent obviously a huge risk. You have your administrative passwords in most of these units. Like I said, you can actually look up on most of the routers and any unit that you have out there, that what is the admin name and what is the password for that device. So we must be able to go in and make sure we disable our guest accounts, disable the administrator, not the administrators group. Obviously, create yourself a brand new administrator ID before you disable that ID. That'll obviously alleviate at least that portion of the risk where the users are not going to know who the administrator is within that machine, as long as they don't have it in their hands. If they have it in their hands, good luck. Any questions or doubts? Why is it that if I have your computer in my hands, it doesn't matter what ID or password you have, even if you have anything in there?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Why is it that it doesn't matter how long or how complex your password is if I have your computer offline, in other words, I have it in my hands, it doesn't matter what password or username you created?
Many tricks to bypass many things. You can bypass the OS.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part. The who?
Many things you can do. You can bypass the OS if it's not encrypted correctly. You can also, oh, any better?
I had to change it. I couldn't hear you, man.
What I was saying is that you have many options for bypassing the OS, the passwords. You can easily crack it by doing a force because you have the system. If the
Mhm.
system doesn't have correct lockout, you can just keep brute forcing it. And
Mhm.
even if it does, you can find a way to get the digits, and then you can just do an offline brute force.
Yeah, if I
Eventually,
have offline, that's correct. An offline brute force, it doesn't matter how many tries. At the point that it's offline, it will not have any issues with me. I have shown you guys there is a plethora of tools out there within the Linux Foundation that can hack anything. Trinity is one of the CDs that I use to be able to even go in. It will then go and look at the actual database that has the stored cached information, and it'll tell you, hey, this is the user. Which one would you like to change the password for? As simple as that. I don't even need to know your password. It's just going to ask me which user you want, what password you want to put on. Therefore, obviously, all of this, as long as I have it physically, I can control it. That's another reason why they try and go into making sure that you encrypt these BIOSes. Inside the BIOS, the UEFI BIOS, the password should be configured to required to access it. Make sure that hopefully, at least that's just, and we understand that that is really security with obscurity because of the fact that if I go and remove the battery, I'm in. But this at least will deter from anyone to being able to get in reference to the actual PC, if and only if they're doing it remotely, and if and only if, obviously, if somebody sits down on your desk, if they don't try to remove the actual battery. Other things that they ask is the screensaver is required because of the fact that when you walk away, you want those users to be able to, for obviously short period of time, depending obviously on the detail of information or the access that they have. Some of them set it for 10 minutes. Some of them, like I said, inside a certain department, it was 1 minute, which was annoying for the users because they had to keep on moving their mouse or doing something while they were reading their emails. They basically started using their mouse to go looking like if they're with their finger reading because of the fact that within a minute, it'll lock. Any questions or doubts on the BIOS UEFI passwords and or the screensaver required for passwords? Let's imagine that you're an IT professional within a large business, has over 500 users. And the employees have to change their passwords once every 90 days. The new passwords cannot be similar to the previous ones. You have received multiple emails and calls from clients complaining about this policy. They feel frustrated, saying that they cannot think of new passwords and keep forgetting the latest password. How could you respond to these clients in a way that both protects the company's data while still showing strong customer focus to your clients? What can I do? The guy is frustrated. He's yelling at my phone. My ear is tired. He's already went over 15 different passwords. Now he's can't figure it out. What should we do with a person that's outraged, exacerbated? What's the rule we should do right away?
de-escalate the situation. In other words, be calm and try to help the person in a professional manner.
Yeah, show your, show empathy, right? I understand you're very frustrated, sir. Unfortunately, we need to understand that our UAC policy states that our company has been breached before, and we need to make sure that we do not leak important information. So unfortunately, there is other tools that we can use to create your passwords. And maybe you can use some type of software on your phones that have I believe there's a little software for protecting your passwords. You can maybe use that software to keep track of your passwords. Obviously, don't recommend anything that your company does not allow. But the first thing is to empathize, deal with their emotional state before we try to fix anything, right? We always want to make sure we we deal with the emotional state, because if we just go and start reciting the UAC and or any other company other policies, I'm pretty sure you're not going to get a very, very nice, warm welcome. Obviously, some aspects of these best practices for data security becomes tedious, and it's easy to become tempted to cut corners. So we need to show our own personal responsibility mindset to maintain the security and best practices. Obviously, it may seem minor, but they can become tiresome over time. So what can we do overall to help ourselves with personal responsibility? How will you use it? My own personal responsibility, what can I do? Just one thing I can give you a clue. Got to remind myself, obviously, that's what I'm being paid for. That's the first thing. It's important that security is, and the risk of letting these security practices slip and cost my job. That one would be a very, very good reason why not to. I will remember, obviously, that I want to be the best in my industry and demonstrate the excellence. If we just go and just say, forget about it. It's not going to obviously be very rolling good when the first leak comes out, and or they notice that you have used one of these simple passwords just to try to circumvent the system, and you started to show the other users how to circumvent the system. So we need to obviously make sure that us as IT professionals lead by example when it comes to these things. As I stated, I've tried and I've gone to a website, and I think I forgot how many millions of years it's going to take for a computer, not a person, to be able to hack my password. That's how complicated it is. I don't have repeating characters. I think it's like 18 or 20 characters is my password. It's the only way I can keep these people out from being bored. Any questions or doubts on passwords? Next one is your password history. Obviously, the default number is 0. The highest it can go is 24. That's another reason why I've, at least for me, I created that humongous complex password. I think it's good enough. On top of that, all I do is then just use the alphabet. I either put it in the front or in the back or in the middle, and then I change it from being a capital or a lowercase. In other words, I use A through Z, and then I use my same password, but I stick it in one of those 3 sections. No one knows exactly where it is. And every month I change the letter. As simple as that. And then obviously my password is still technically the same, but it's different. And since the alphabet has 26, by the time I get back to the letter A, it doesn't matter if I put it in the middle, the front, or the back. If I forget, it doesn't matter, because it's already at 26. It has passed the 24. The maximum password age by default is 42, but the value ranges obviously from 0 to 99. Cannot be 0 because the minimum is set to 0. Cannot be obviously the same as the minimum. The same thing here. As you notice, this one though, for the password minimum age is from 0 to 998. As I stated, it cannot be the same as the maximum length. Therefore, it cannot go up to 999. Minimum password length goes from 0 characters, meaning no password is required, but you can specify a number up to 14 in Windows, obviously. Password must meet complexity requirements. The default is disabled. When it's turned on, the password must include at least 3 of these: uppercase, lowercase, numerical, non-alphanumeric, and Unicode characters. 3 of them, not all of them. It's not a must that it must be all of them. It would be great. Sorry, excuse me, if it was. Questions or doubts? These we must know: complexity, what it is, uppercase, lowercase, numerical, non-alphanumeric, Unicode characters. Same thing with our minimum length, age, and maximum. Same thing with the history. We need to know these things. They will test you on those type of things and what they are. Questions or doubts? Account management. Restricting a user's permissions obviously is the best thing. Following the principle of least privilege by giving users only the bare minimum to do their job. We don't give them more than what they need. Assign permissions to groups, always to groups, never to users. And make the users members of those groups. This makes it obviously for the rule-based ones to be role-based, sorry. Role-based ones to be much easier when it comes to that. Obviously, the Mac one is a different one and all the other ones, but we can create those type of groups depending on the type of security that we're using and assign the users to those buckets. The long on time restrictions is a great feature. At the same time, this is a horrible feature because we need to be careful. There's times that users have to work overtime. So if we go 8 to 5 and assume that they're going to be only there from 8 to 5, we're obviously going to start receiving calls from those given area managers. So this is most likely one of the things that we need to be very careful with. Obviously, if there is a must, we know that these people shouldn't be there maybe after 9 because the business or the building closes after 9, then if we want, we can obviously lock them out. Once again, laptop users will use it at any time. So we need to make sure, is it a mandate within the actual business? Any questions or doubts? Disabling the guest account. He's not the only one. We should also be disabling the administrator and actually renaming them if possible. Disabling the accounts that are needed is obviously like the guest account or any other account that's not there. So if I have an account that of a person that just left, but we may need maybe some access, we usually disable first, wait 30 days, and then delete the account. We never delete the account right away. Maybe something in that ID that we need to get to. Obviously, as administrators, we will be able to get in there easily, but we want to make sure that account, for whatever reason, we're able to get to certain information. Failed attempts lockout. Obviously, almost all password systems are set up for a set number of failed attempts. While this policy may generate more password reset calls, that effect can be mitigated by implementing or a complementary policy that allows the account to automatically be enabled after a certain amount of time. As I said, usually that's an hour, which then I can start hacking again. This is a good feature and a bad feature. Because if I'm hacking while you're on vacation and you've gone for 2 weeks, I got 2 weeks to get in. And nobody's complaining that they're locked out. Another reason why is because a lot of the people, you'll notice that they'll start sending them emails. These hackers are so smart. And the moment that you put an out of office reply, they love to put, oh yeah, I'm gone from this date to this date. You just gave me a time frame, then I can hack your ID. That's what a lot of users do. I never put a time frame. I just say I'm currently not available, whatever, that little thing, only to the internal customers or internal users. I don't put that to the external. You'll notice that in Outlook, you can actually put internal and external messages. I never, ever, ever, ever put a response to external emails. Obviously, we want to let everybody internally know, because if they're really trying to reach, you don't want them to start escalating to your boss because you're not responding. As for externals, I mean, unless if you're part of customer service and it is warranted by your job where you must respond to external, then don't put a date. Don't put what date to what date. Just say, you know, I'm not available at this time. I'll return, or please contact so-and-so if it is an emergency. Simple as that. Any questions or doubts on disabling guest accounts and or administrator account failed attempts lockout? Timeout screen lock. Obviously, it's a good practice to protect the screen when someone steps away from their device. Moreover, when the device is in an out of the way location. It is maybe even, what they mean is basically a lot of computers sometimes in operations. The guy goes up, he got to get in order or something, so he comes up, and then he spits it or prints out whatever he needed, he boom, jets right back over there. As soon as he does that, anybody else can see his screen, his or her screen, sorry, and there is a chance for someone obviously to browse this device. I've caught plenty of operation users. So what I usually do is I create an email and I send it to their whole address book, letting them know that I forgot to lock my computer. IT is in here and he's sending this email. If you have any questions, please ask my boss. To their own boss. Unfortunately, you'll be surprised. They actually send you out to do that. It's part of your job to catch these users doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. For this reason, we should require a password protection screen on all devices that kicks after a short period of time, depending on the type of users. Security should be 1 minute. People that deal like HR, same thing, about 1 minute to 5 minutes. People that deal with money, 1 to 5 minutes. Regular users, maybe 10 minutes. CEOs, they may not even want it. But you still need to give them that 1 to 5 minute window. Maybe the 5 minute window, because you know they're going to be killing you if you put that 1 minute. People that deal with IT, in other words. If I have an admin account, imagine, I'm logged in, I walk away. If I have an admin account in the domain, I have full control of all computers. The moment somebody gets and steps in behind this keyboard, they have full rights to everything on the network. Remember that Kerberos has a ticketing system, which means that I logged on. The moment that I try to get onto another server, he's just gonna go and ask Kerberos for a ticket. It's not gonna ask him for a username and password. Therefore, this is a must. We must lock our screens and we must have a timeout. Otherwise, it's a freebie for anyone that's coming in. Next one is a disable the auto run. The auto run .inf file is contained within these CDs, and they can be accessed at websites. They can be inside a USB. There is a plethora of stuff that has this little auto run .information file. Microsoft has changed the auto run function to be disabled by default on Windows 7 and beyond, because obviously this little feature that was great, it was annoying going and looking for the file that you needed to run when you put in the CD. Everybody thought it was a great idea because I'm lazy. I don't want to go into the DVD and click on a simple little thing. That's gone. It's all disabled on purpose. Any questions or doubt? Data encryption is obviously possible both on the drive level or on the actual individual, which is a BitLocker or EFS. However, there must be a balance between the security and the usability. Any encryption file must be decrypted to be opened. Word there. It's encrypted, must be decrypted when it's being used. That's why you'll notice that whenever you have BitLocker, when it boots up, it must decrypt the drive. That's a great feature. So we never, ever, ever put it to go to sleep. If you put it to go to sleep mode, it is decrypted. Everyone understand that? If I put my computer to go into sleep mode instead of shut down, it is currently decrypted, the drive. Therefore, I could just take it out, put it in another computer, and I'm in. Because that system that I have here, I have admin rights, and now that's just a D or an E drive on my computer. It is decrypted.
Diego, is this the concept of CIA for security?
CIA. Oh, confidential integrity and authenticity?
Availability.
Availability? I thought it was authenticity. Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing. But yeah, is it referring to that, like classification? I already forgot what the I is.
I thought it was integrity.
Integrity. Yeah, it's integrity and then availability.
Mhm.
That's what it sounds like when it says security and usability.
Well, it falls into the realm of security. Yeah. Now the key word is where integrity. I would say no. I think it's more in integrity of the actual thing because
I guess that would be the encryption, would be the integrity.
obviously the performance of the device, if everything's encrypted, is a little slower. If you have it at the drive level, it is only slower during the boot. As soon as it boots up, it is basically decrypted, every file on the drive. Compared to EFS, is at the individual file. So every file that they attempt to open that is encrypted, obviously, only the ones that are encrypted, it just requires a little bit more time to decrypt it. Questions or doubts? Patch, update, and management. While patches and updates either repair something that doesn't work or adds additional functionality, many of them close a security hole or threat vulnerability. These are called hot fixes. Whenever you see a hot fix from Windows, usually that's the problem that they have, because they come out as soon as they are available, and you need to apply them as soon as possible. Obviously, we need to make sure we test all these things in a company environment. But for best results in patch management, a system admin should deploy an automated system that can check it, download it, and make it available to network patches and updates for all systems. A good example of this is the WSUS, or the Microsoft Windows Server Update Services, which can manage both updates for servers and clients, especially the servers. We want to make sure we patch those. Believe it or not, even other operating systems as well. Common pitfalls. The day that somebody doesn't forget their password would be the day that we lose our job. I haven't seen one day yet that it doesn't happen. Matter of fact, the amazing thing is that some of these companies have allow you now to actually reset your password on the logon. They have a little link right under that you forget your password, and then it asks you, just like any other website, to give 3 answers to 3 different questions that you have set up with HR or security prior to this happening. Obviously, this is a quick fix. It could be either done with that link, like I told you, or they call the help desk to get it fixed. Too much encryption obviously affects the performance of the PC. As we said, encryption tools are recommended for sensitive data, updates, and patches. Not every update or patch improves security. Downloading and installing installing improper patches or updates may affect the functionality. So if I put a patch for Windows 7 on a Windows 8, I may have a problem. Same thing if I go and I put something that was for professional and it was basic, I may have a problem here. You need to make sure that the patches that are being applied on a given computer is for the correct OS and is for the correct, if it's 64 or 32-bit operating systems. Most of these things don't let you. Some of them do. We need to be careful. Okay, we're going to be breaking up soon into groups here for scenarios. 1 second. All right. Looking at this here, just review it and then give me your considerations look at the steps that may have to be taken into place. What can we do to help this user? Should be, I don't think, more than 2 or 3 minutes per. You have 2 scenarios. I'll give you 10 minutes the most within your groups to work out these 2 scenarios and see what we can do to resolve Julia's and Daryl's situation. I'll pause this here. So from what we have here, what is the first thing that we notice that's the main thing here? Start with the first sentence. Anything wrong with the first sentence? No, she's just reviewing it. Second sentence, is there a problem with what just happened in the second sentence?
Yeah. 17 unsuccessful attempts, meaning there was no lockout.
9:57 p.m. and 17. So the time, obviously the computer is in the office. This is not a laptop. 9:57 p.m., right? 17 unsuccessful attempts. There's no lockout and there's no time restriction on them. This person doesn't seem to work at night. Therefore, there is no requirement for them to be in there. So that's one thing we do. We also said we should be locking them out. And let's go to the next one then. After interviewing Jay, learned that the password is Smith321 for every logon on the machine. What can we do? Is that okay?
No.
What can we do? What can we implement to alleviate this from future? What are
Use, use uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and
yeah, we can turn on complexity for passwords. Apparently it's not there. What else? There's one more thing in that sentence that I can do.
Not use the same password for everything.
And how can I implement that?
change that for every login.
I'm sorry?
Change that for every login.
Well,
Single sign-on.
there's either single sign-on, but let's say I don't have that. I don't have that type of money. I can't put single sign-on.
Company policy. You have to have a compliance
Wait,
for it.
You need to come back to him with the piece of paper from HR, bring it to him and say, obviously empathize, make sure that he, I'm sorry that they broke in. This is why, unfortunately, we have this policy within the company. Just remind the user, do not use the exact same password for every single system. This is obviously just one password that they need to hack. And then after that, they're into everything. Make sense? So far, we've said time restrictions, unsuccessful attempts, complexity, and the UAC we're going to recite. And the other thing, admitted he was not, at least he did the part of making sure that no client's name is in there in the files. And he also backed up his data to the company's file sharing site, which I'm not sure how that's helpful. Because
I have a question. Can you explain single sign-on again?
single sign-on is a feature that's there. Basically, you only need to log on once. When you log on, let's say to this Microsoft website and or when you log on, it is a server that allows you to go into any other server with that logon. Very close to being using a Windows password when you come in, but this can go into even sites, websites. You don't have to go and log on. For instance, single sign-on, you'll notice that inside Nearpod, when I go in, I use my Google account. It's only Google. I don't need to have another ID and password. It's the exact same ID and password that I use for Google, I use for Nearpod. Or you might use Facebook as another single sign-on. Have you ever been asked to go to a site and they go, okay, sign on with your Facebook? But it's not Facebook site. It's got nothing to do with Facebook, but they're asking you to log on with your Facebook account.
So how's that like secure?
How is it secure? In the fact that you're still logging on to that service per se, and you're just hoping that they don't get hacked. It's the only thing that it is. I really don't like single sign-on, to tell you the truth. But
So you should be better off like just making like different like accounts for each thing.
what you could do is within single sign-on, maybe you could add the multi-factor authentication. So yeah, they might log on with that, but then there's a token or something they have or something they are or somewhere they are, something like that, to add a second layer. But we gotta admit, no matter what, users are users. They most likely are gonna go and create the exact same username and password. That's another reason why multi-factor authentication has come about, is because of the fact that users are users and they will continue to do what they do. And that annoys the living daylights out of the ones that forget their tokens at home. Now, when they get to work, they left their token at home. They can't log on, can't do anything. Obviously, there is ways when you call the help desk, you can temporarily turn off the multi-factor authentication. But in the most of the parts, they may even have some type of software that you can put on the phone that will generate the PIN for them. Any questions or doubts? Okay. I'll create the rooms now, and then I guess you guys will give me your suggestions on the second one. All right, let's welcome back. Read out the scenario 2. So Daryl is a busy salesman and does not like to be slowed down by any of your people's IT issues. Horrible, it bothered me so much. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna adjust all my settings on my computer. There's no screensaver. Autoplay, why I even ask me to run anything? Just run it. He never shuts down the computer, and whenever it prompts him to update, I don't need that right now. Do it later. Then he says that he secures his workstation by obviously maintaining a very long password, complicated, convoluted password, and he changes it every 30 days. He's frustrated when he suspects that he has some type of virus or malware, and he brings the computer to the IT desk. So what should we do, and how, and what can we implement?
In his case, I have about 4 issues and 4 solutions.
Okay.
So 1, no screensaver is an issue. Autoplay works without UAC on. Is basically what I'm getting from what he's putting on his settings is a big issue. Never turning off the computer increases exposure. And device is not updated often is a big concern.
Okay.
Solutions you can have here is enable screensaver with password required.
Yeah, but he's gonna disable it again.
Huh?
He's gonna disable it. He's just
change his permissions so he can't do that stuff.
So how do I do that though?
Oh yeah, you can just do compliance. You go to human resource and go to the.
He's still gonna go. He's still gonna take it off.
Well, that's fine. You can do that. I mean, you can't prevent users.
There's one thing you can do though. There is a thing that you can do that he won't be able to do it, and it's got nothing to do with his rights. Oh well,
I mean,
technically it does have to do with his rights, but there's one location you can go and stop him from doing this.
You mean I just force the policy?
Exactly. Group policy. Force it in group policy. There's no way now that he can change that. Nothing he can do. User rights have rights to their profile. If you remember, I have full rights, full control of my folder. And unless if you go into group policy, you won't stop him from doing that. The same thing with the autoplay, right? The UAC. We go into the group policy and do a GP update to his PC and to his ID. That way, wherever he goes into, obviously we should do it to everybody, not to him. only, but wherever the user goes or whatever, whoever logs onto that computer will have the exact same group policy. We need to make sure we do it that way. At this point, this guy obviously can care less about the situation. Seeing the UAC would be my last thing I do, but at the same time, there's got to be a way of me stopping him. He's obviously not listening. And now you said the patches. What else can I do with that one?
That one, you can just do a force update on the policies and see how that works. That one I see is a little bit weird. Usually in most companies, they have like a patch date. So I'm gonna guess in this case, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, you'll have it patched manually in like a network
do it in the
setting.
background and then let the annoying little thing come up. You run the patch in the background and then you hit the command of shutdown/restart with a little prompt. Obviously, depending on the type of money, you could even have a little GUI that comes out and says, "Hey, this patch is installing." Your computer's about to restart in 30 seconds. No, and done. Any other thing? This guy's like tickling me in the wrong way. As you can see,
Well, you can force the computer to be shut down or hibernate when not in use for a long period of time.
Remember, hibernate leaves the whole drive decrypted if it is encrypted. So hibernate will leave it completely vulnerable. So yeah, you want shut down maybe at certain times, or on the computer profile itself, make it restart. On our computers, when I was in certain locations that I was in, we created a script which was a task scheduler, and inside the task scheduler, it had the PowerShell or the man bat file, which one you want to create, which then ran. And I ran it obviously with administrative rights, so user couldn't stop it. And then since there was at that time I was helping another school that I was working for, and basically there was three different classes. So right after the students leave, like around almost 1 o'clock, it would restart in the afternoon. Then at around 6 o'clock, it would restart again. And when it booted up on a different partition. So like, let's say morning was A plus, the afternoon was network plus, and then the night one was security plus. It would rotate from different partitions and everything with the script. So the user was oblivious of what was going on. But obviously we had full control and were able to mitigate this situation. Any other things that we can do?
About updating the software like regularly.
Which other software should he be updating? Which seems not to be updating. Because with the patches, we should be doing all the OS and other software that's in there, right? So what other one does he seem to be avoiding?
Probably the definition file and the core engine for the multi-hour programs.
For the multi-who?
For the malware programs.
Oh, the malware. Yeah, exactly. He's avoiding the daily updates of his malware antivirus, anti-malware, antivirus software updates. It's obvious because he seems to be frustrated that he has a virus. He has a virus. Once again, he has not allowed his updates to happen within that given software. Or even God only knows, he might have just gone in there and disabled it itself. Any questions or doubts? I think those are it. You guys kind of hit them all on the head. All right. Let's go here with number 1. Which one is considered a strong password? A, B, C, or D? All of them say password, obviously. But out of all of them, which one meets the criteria of at least 3 or more? B as in boy or D as in dog?
I'll say B.
B as in boy.
He's got password with a capital letter. He's got the @ sign. He's got a number. And he's got an exclamation mark. Everyone agree?
Yeah.
Not a great password, but it'll do. It'll meet the criteria of Windows, right?
Mhm.
The only problem obviously is it's not long enough and it's a word. Technically a word. Number 2. After determining the scope of a user's job, what is the next step in implementing the principle in the least privilege? A, determine the minimum set of privileges needed to perform the user's job. B, determine the maximum set of privileges needed to perform the user's job. C, configure the appropriate privileges for the user's account. D, configure the appropriate group membership for the user's account. Which one should it be?
A.
Correct. Determine the minimum set of privileges needed to perform the user's job. Least privilege principle. Why not just configure him an appropriate group membership for the user's account? Because if I assume that's just the group that he needs, without going first to see what is the minimum set privileges, I basically circumvented one step, didn't I? I jumped towards the end of the answer there. It said the next step was the key word. Remember, they're always going to give you more than one possible answer. In this case, all they did was just determine the scope of the user job, but they haven't determined the minimum set of privileges needed to do that job. Then from there, you can put them in whatever group or groups he may require, or she. Questions? Doubts? Number 3, which of the following is true about the guest account in Windows? A, it is disabled by default. B, it automatically has a complex password. C, you cannot rename it. And D, it has administrative access. Which one is correct? Which one's true?
C.
Everyone agree you can't rename the account?
I think it's A.
I think it's A.
Okay, you got 2 votes for A. 1 vote for C. Everybody with A or C? Come on, 1 more vote to make it unanimous or to tie it up. 1 or 2.
I'll go A.
Yes, A. Windows 7 and on by default has the actual guest account disabled. That is true. You can rename any account. So if I can rename the administrative account, obviously then I can rename any account, whatever I want.
So that goes for Windows 10 as well, because the book says it's disabled in Windows 10, but I said it.
It should, all Windows 7 and above has the guest account disabled by default. Number 4, which password policy setting allows you to configure how many new passwords must be created before an old one can be used? Is it A, password age, B, password length, C, password history, D, password lockout?
C.
Everyone agree?
Password.
Password history?
Yeah.
That is correct. It states there how many new passwords must be before an old one. Anyone remember what's the maximum amount you can put before you can use a new one? It's the alphabet minus 2. That's how many hours there is in a day.
24.
Yeah. 24. Number 5, when the auto run feature is enabled on a system, which file does it look for to find actions to execute? A, the command.com file, the config.sys is B, C is autoexec.bat, or D, autorun.inf.
A. Command.com.
D as in dog.
Okay, we got 1 vote for A, 1 vote for D.
I agree with D.
No.
Correct, the auto run information file. That's why it's called the auto run feature, auto run.inf. That file will let it know exactly where inside this device, be a CD, DVD, USB, or whatever it is, when it goes into that file, it will be able to figure out what it needs to run, the setup.exe, whatever .exe file that's inside the given device. That is all she wrote for this session. Any questions or doubts before we go on break?
Yep.
Stopping the recording here.